They're two happy women bringing you inspiring stories, politics, pop culture, and lifestyle hacks, all with an eye to making our communities and our country a better place to live. It's the Happy Women Podcast with your hosts, Jen Horn and Katie Gorka.
The swamp has been revealed and their paychecks have been cut off. Welcome to another episode. It is the Happy Women Podcast. I'm Jennifer Horn.
And I'm Katie Gorka.
And boy, oh boy, the corruption and the waste and the fraud that we have seen over just revealed in the last not even 3 weeks yet of this Trump administration has been absolutely insane. Katie, we are hearing names. We are getting confirmation of plots, including impeachment against President Trump the first time, paid for it with U.S. tax dollars, all through USAID. And now we're learning more and more about the corruption in FEMA and every other government department that Elon Musk and his team has been able to get into at this date.
It is incredible. I'm shocked with what we're learning, but I'm equally shocked that the Democrats actually think that it is a good look for them to be at the door of USAID fighting so that we can fund DEI operas in Haiti instead of helping to support the poor citizens of North Carolina or the people who lost their houses in the fires in California. I think the Democrats have just lost their marbles.
Yeah, it's like doubling down on stupid, I love to say. And it is not a good look. Look, there are all kinds of things that Democrats can do to try to get back on message again, but fighting against weeding out the waste and the fraud when we already feel like we pay too much in too many dollars that we work hard for in taxes. It just doesn't make any sense. But let's start with the story that broke a little bit earlier today. As we went to record today, we learned that there were some firings over at FEMA. And it started out on Monday when Elon Musk revealed that he found about $59 million in money from last week alone that went to fancy high-end hotels in New York City to house illegal immigrants because New York is a sanctuary city. Now, this money was doled out after President Trump came to office, after the executive action stopping all of this stuff. You still got people who are suffering in North Carolina because of the Hurricane Helene. You have people suffering in Los Angeles trying to get FEMA money after the fires. And we are giving $59 million so that illegal immigrants can have tea and crumpets at the Plaza Hotel. I beg your pardon. And that led to some firings today. 4 people fired from FEMA for what Elon Musk rightly described as insubordination of President Trump.
Including Mary Comins, the chief financial officer of FEMA. But I think what's also really interesting that's come out is this news about Samantha Power, who under the Biden administration was
Same thing.
She actually, I was thinking that because she had a job in the Obama administration as well. But in the Biden administration, she was the administrator for USAID. And one of the news stories coming out is the fact that somehow on her government salary, she's now worth $23 million. Really makes you gotta wonder.
It does. And I think that's why the Democrats are fighting so hard when these stories are coming out. I was doing a little digging around on Maxine Waters. Her net worth is up there as well. She has been a career politician. She's been in Congress for as long as I can remember. And we know what the salary is for Congress. She's got a $5 million home that good for her if she was able to get that home or if it was a family gift. But if you are truly just cashing in your congressional salary every year, you're not living in a $5 million home, especially with property taxes the way they are in Los Angeles. It's just not happening. And this story, it was a true whistleblower story. All right. So Samantha Power, who we heard a lot about during the impeachment around President Trump. We heard a lot about her during the Obama administration. Dan Bongino was talking on his podcast about how she was one of the people who were involved with the impeachment scandal, but never really kind of paid the piper when it went wrong. There was just that she never really had her comeuppance, essentially, as some of the other people that were more notable, the James Comeys and the Andrew McCabe's and the Peter Strzok and the Lisa Page. But she was definitely in this conversation. Well, her wealth exploded from earning just $180,000 per year. She went from from being worth $6.7 million to $30 million almost on $180,000 a year salary, it makes you question where the 23.3 million came from. And in 3 years' time. Now, she was the administrator at USAID. So you have to think, with all of that spending and all of those pet projects, President Trump has said it, were there some kickbacks? Were there kickbacks to the USAID administrator? Were there kickbacks to members of Congress? Is this why they are screaming so hard? Because they know that what they were using to enrich themselves is now being cut off. The faucet's being turned off. And you have to think that's the case with Samantha Power. Literally, when we start off by saying that this is the swamp, here is the swamp. Career politicians, career government workers who have gone from making $180,000 a year to being worth about $30 million.
Well,
Insane.
And what I think is so distressing about this, like so many of us have long been upset about things like the insider trading, right, that goes on in Congress. I mean, there have been Nancy Pelosi. I just feel like every single year there's evidence that she's benefiting from insider trading and insider knowledge. But honestly, what Elon Musk and his group of kids has managed to expose is that I think the corruption is actually so much worse and so much deeper. And it really seems apparent. I think this is where we're going with all of this, that it seems that many Democrats have filled their pockets with taxpayer dollars through entities like USAID and even potentially FEMA. So I just, I can't wait to see what else comes out. I'm kind of horrified, but it feels so cathartic.
It does.
To see all this being exposed.
These are things that I think many of us kind of had a suspicion that things like this could have been happening. But if you mentioned it, if you dare mention it, all of a sudden you're called a conspiracy theorist. And now we're seeing it all come home and it's all there and the numbers don't lie. And that's why they were so afraid to have President Trump win again. That's why they fought so hard to get him out, because they knew eventually this day would come. And I don't think they realized how quickly it would come. And there's a related story in Los Angeles that you are just... I wrote this down to share with you guys because it's very on par with the same type of corruption that's being exposed in Washington, D.C. So in Los Angeles, our mayor is Karen Bass, who is also a career politician who has made some really bad decisions. And she's made bad decisions in the run up to the fires. And now she's making bad decisions as we are trying to recover from the fires. And she's done a couple of hiring jobs that are questionable. So the first, she hires this CEO, Steve Sobroff, who himself is a millionaire. He could already be a billionaire. I mean, this guy is a big business developer, big land developer, who was going to be kind of her CEO for some of these rebuilding efforts around Los Angeles. And the problem with Steve Sobroff is that it was sort of presented to the people of Los Angeles and California that he was going to be doing this on his own time. This is a wealthy guy who has the ability to do that. He also had a staff underneath him, a lot of people making, we found out, $250,000 for 90 days worth of work. Well, it was revealed that he wasn't working for free this week. It was revealed that he agreed to be paid $500,000 for 90 days, for a 90-day contract to help Los Angeles, $500,000. And when this story escaped, and I say escaped because Karen Bass had no intention of telling people of Los Angeles that this was the case or that she made this decision to pay him that much. Instead of justifying it, which would have been the PR play to say, well, Steve Sobroff is extremely talented. Here's why we are spending this money on him. Here's why it's a small drop in the bucket with the investment and what it will bring back to Los Angeles. No, she cracks under the pressure, the public pressure. And she says, well, this was just supposed to be money paid to him out of charitable funds, not taxpayer dollars. Now, that doesn't make anybody feel any better, Katie, because whether you're defrauding taxpayers or people who think they're writing a check to help someone who's lost their house, they're not paying for a millionaire to make $500,000 a year. They're just, it's wrong on all levels. And there's some question about what charity, and I'll put air quotes around that, she was even referring to that would be paying him. And then you have to ask yourself, is this one of the USAID charities that getting government money back? I mean, there's so many questions. So when the backlash continues issues on her for making that comment about charity, she said, well, I have to have a conversation with him. So she has the conversation with him, and he's now going to be doing the job for free. But had they not been caught, had people not been outraged about this guy would have been taking $500,000 from either taxpayers or from a charity, who knows, on the backs of who. And for what? What are we going to get back? We're going to give Karen Bass someone she can fire if things go wrong. So basically she can pass the buck to him. And she's paying off some of her friends, because what she doesn't tell you is that Steve Soboroff was one of her biggest donors when she was running for mayor. This is such a scummy, swampy circle, but it's exactly what we're seeing at the federal level as well. All of these Democrats, all of these people who are feathering the nest of their friends, it's the worst kept secret, but yet they protect each other. And the story with Karen Bass gets even worse, because apparently she decided she also needed a CEO for Rebuild LA, which is another group that is going to be rebuilding Los Angeles, or at least that's their intention. And you may have heard about this group because the residents, particularly in Palisades, were upset that she went and hired someone without getting any consent or approval from the neighborhood. She just brought someone in out of her own pocket. Well, it turns out it's this guy Haggerty, who runs Haggerty Consulting, who is now his employees are facing criminal jail time and civil charges, because they got the contract to help rebuild New York City after Hurricane Sandy. And the employees of Haggerty Consulting, at least a couple of them, took the money and lied about reimbursements so that they were making more money than they actually spent. And they got caught. And now they're facing the fallout from that. And this is the person that Karen Bass thinks, and the firm that Karen Bass thinks is going to be great to rebuild Los Angeles. Turns out this guy Haggerty was also the mayor of Evanston, Illinois, which is a small town in Illinois, very liberal town. He was a George Soros mayor, basically bowing to Black Lives Matter, went through and did all of the DEI in this small town, and even handed the town back to the Native Americans who said they owned it. He was mayor. He's the only one-term mayor in, I guess, this city's history, because he was that bad, running it into the ground. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that happens in Los Angeles or in Washington, D.C., behind closed doors. They don't make decisions based on the good of the people. They're making decisions about who has supported them in the past, who will do them favors in the future. And the only silver lining here I can tell you is that the reason we're even talking about this today is because people are paying attention and they were outraged. And public pressure is the only thing that stops the swamp in California from Gavin Newsom on down. So I say the good news here is that I think America and California, everybody, is done with career politicians, because we're on to how they operate and how they make all their money. I want to take a moment to tell you that as we age, we're all dealing with more aches and pains, thinning hair, wrinkling skin, even our nails start to get more brittle. I've noticed that. I want to tell you about this amazing product Katie and I have both been using. We've been talking about it today, and it's called Revive from Bright Core Nutrition. It's an easy to mix multi-collagen powder that helps to strengthen bones and joints. And the best thing about Revive is that it works from the inside out. It's also going to help you rejuvenate your skin, help you grow back thicker, healthier hair, and strengthen your brittle nails. Revive contains 5 types of collagen. That's what makes it incredibly different and special. Hyaluronic acid, biotin, and vitamin C, which work synergistically to make you feel and look younger than ever before. It's all natural, non-GMO, and we love it at Happy Women, 100% made in America. So today, exclusive for all of you listening, you can get 25% off with code HAPPYWOMEN by going to mybrightcore.com/Happy Women, or you can call Brightcore and get up to 50% off and free shipping. Give them a call right now.
So I have some real insight on this, because I got to do something very cool on Friday night. I got to sit in on a focus group. Yeah. And it has real bearing on this. To me, it was just so interesting. So these were 8 people local to me who had voted for Biden in 2020 and switched their vote and voted for Trump in 2024. And so
registered Democrats?
No, because in Virginia, you don't register.
Great. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
You don't register by party. So, which is its own kind of challenge, but it was so insightful to me because, obviously prior to Trump, I think these are all people who would have identified as Democrats, right? And so the question is, what was it that made them leave the Democrat Party and move over to vote for Trump? And here's what was so interesting. And let me say this as well about them. It was a very diverse group. So everybody was either African American, Asian American, or Hispanic. Okay. So no, just whatever. White, straight
average
up
white guys, right?
Average white, no average white guys. Yeah.
Okay.
Which also made it to me doubly interesting. So here's what they said. First of all, they really felt that Kamala was a diversity hire, which that just shocked me that they said that. They said that Biden was unfit and they did not like Kamala as the choice that was imposed on them. They felt they had no say in her being selected and that she was a diversity hire. She was not the best candidate. They also felt
right.
I know but it's so interesting that it's not just conservatives who look at it that way, right? They also felt that the policies of the Democrats were not beneficial to these voters. Here's another comment that to me was fascinating, that they felt that the lawfare against President Trump was very obvious. So again, I'm surprised that somebody who's sympathetic to the Democratic Party would see it that way. They even said they felt that the whole thing around January 6th was misframed, right? How interesting is that? But one of the biggest issues as well that drove them away from the Democrat Party was the insanity, especially the radical transgenderism, the boys and girls bathrooms, the boys and girls sports. And nearly everyone in the group said they just want to go back to normal. So I find that super, super interesting. They felt that they've been manipulated by the Democrat Party. They felt that there was a lot of dishonesty, a lot of extremism in the Democratic Party, and a lot of extreme rhetoric. So, they were sort of making fun of those people who say, Trump is going to kill our children and he's going to kill all the black people. And, they said, come on. Like, we can see who Trump is. This is so not true. So I thought that was really interesting. And they also, flatly just said the leadership of the Democratic Party was really weak. There was no strong leader. But on the flip side, lest you think that all of our problems are solved and that people have woken up to the problems of the Democratic Party.
Doggone it.
No, they were also asked, what do you see as the problems with the Republican Party? Because I think one of the very important questions is, a lot of people voted for Trump who have not voted Republican before.
Right.
Are they going to vote for other Republicans down the ticket? So this is very relevant for us in Virginia this year because we've got some very big races. We've got governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, as well as House of Delegates. And so, will we keep those Trump voters? Will they vote for Republicans down ticket? I'm not so sure. So here's what they said. They felt with Republicans, and keep in mind, these are 8 people who voted for Trump, but they felt that Republicans are still too loyal to businesses over people.
Interesting. Okay.
I know. And they also felt that there was a lack of compassion for the working class. Now, keep in mind, Fairfax is in a pretty special category because we have a huge number of federal employees, many of whom are losing their jobs right around now. So I think there is maybe some sympathy around that. So then we asked, what are the important issues for them? And this gets kind of local, but I think this is probably true in many, many places. And I know for you in Los Angeles, you're dealing with a lot of the same things, right? And I thought it was so interesting. In fact, I don't think we've talked about this on the show, but that recent polling that came out that said 43% of residents of Los Angeles would consider voting Republican. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. 43%. And only, I think, 18% are Republican actually
18.
in LA County. Yeah. And so people are seeing a shift because, again, they're just tired of being told where they're supposed to go. But I think what you're uncovering, and I can't wait to hear more, it really is about the candidate. It's about the candidate, and it's not just about the party message. So I don't think anybody can get complacent in the fact that Republicans are just winning elections. No, it is about the person and how you connect with that middle class, with that working class. But I'm curious to know what else you learned, because I do think that's such an important takeaway.
So they talked about what are the issues that are most important for them going forward into this local election. So they talked about affordable housing. Fairfax County is very, very expensive. They talked about the high price of our tolls. We are actually facing a big issue around a proposed casino that a lot of people don't like. And we are facing also traffic, as always. So, I think the question is, what's it going to take to get people to vote Republican? And what I found very surprising with this group and very, very interesting is that they seemed keenly aware of what was going on the national level. And I think this is very much because there are so many media outlets that have broken through the lock that the mainstream media has had on information, right? So I think at this point, everybody's on social media, or they're listening to podcasts, or they're listening to alternative media. But I'll tell you what, we don't have that at the local level. Every locality just about, maybe not like Washington, D.C. or big cities like Los Angeles, but, most localities have lost their local paper. So you just don't hear a lot about the very, very local issues. So I was really shocked to hear from this group that while they're so upset with the Democrats at the national level, they actually think the Democrats at the local level are doing a good job.
Yeah. That's tough to wrap your head around a little bit but it does challenge the way we think right now. And I think we're at a time when nothing should be taken for granted. Party labels, I think, are going to become less and less important. If you look at this new generation, kind of the TikTok generation, they are more conservative, but yet they are probably more empathetic and compassionate than you would think conservatives should be. There is going to be a lot of gray area. And I think that's why it really matters that we're cultivating really good candidates at the local level. This is the problem with Republicans in Los Angeles. Sadly, there haven't been great candidates because people think it's a suicide mission. So we don't run our best and brightest. We don't take that time to put people in that actually can connect with individuals. President Trump connected with Democrats, with people who didn't always vote, with younger people. He was able to do that by hearing their problems. And I think so many times you've got people who run for office who just want to tell you how to fix things that they forget about the listening part. So I think we have to really commit as a party, especially in our local areas, to commit to trying to put together coalitions of great candidates that actually go out there and hear people and connect with them. Because this is where Democrats are losing right now at the national level. They're sitting trying to break into the Department of Education, and they don't care that our education's at the bottom of the list. They just don't like that Elon Musk is in there looking for waste. So they're blowing it there. But I think we really have a job ahead of us to make sure that we're getting candidates that can connect like Trump did and can continue to connect in the new ways of media. I mean, whether that's podcasting or whether that's social media, there's a job to be had. But
you know what I realized, though, in listening to this group of people is that, how do I say this? That I've really lived in a bubble. And I think for those of us who are really immersed in this stuff, we spend so much time thinking about these issues. We're so certain in our worldview, right? And we just kind of assume that people of good reason think the same way.
No
and
way.
I honestly think that the Democrats, the Democrat politicians are suffering from the same thing. Why else would they be doing stuff that to us looks absolutely insane, like protesting, what's going on at USAID? That makes no sense to me. But I realize I think on our side, we're maybe guilty of a little bit the same thing, because I realized that the people I was listening to really don't see the world in the same way that I do. For example, that I'm all the time reading stories about Steve Toscano, our Commonwealth's attorney, who is constantly letting criminals go.
Yeah.
And they didn't know anything about him. They didn't even realize that our board of supervisors is 9 Democrats and 1 Republican. Like, they just don't eat and breathe politics the way the rest of us do. And so the question is, how do we communicate with them? How do we get them to be aware that what's happening at the local level is as crazy and radical as what's happening on the national level?
Sometimes more.
And exactly. And I think, you've had a really unique situation in Los Angeles with these fires because they really showed the failure of the local politicians and honestly continue to show it day after day after day. We haven't had a similar crisis, but all those same, problems are here. Just, incredible spending problems. They cannot rein in their spending. They are so driven by their radical progressive ideology, driving it into the schools. They want to bring now gender ideology to first graders. That's where we're at here in Fairfax County.
And they'd rather fight for that. And see, here's where President Trump took that, I think, and actually is a lesson for all of us. The Democrats spent so much time going after those things that don't really matter to the bulk of people. So I think you're right when you say most people are not as engaged as the political nerds like us, like maybe some of you listening. They're not as engaged. They just want things to work. And when things don't work, that's when they'll vote for a change. And I always go back to this woman who was a consultant in radio, who said, if you make things about health, heart, and pocketbook, you will never go wrong. And this is what I think matters to people. Make it important to them. The people of California, the people of Los Angeles are now willing to vote for a Republican because there was no water coming out of the fire hydrants. The reservoirs were empty. And they know the Democrats have been in charge for a while. So if you think, gosh, what can we do as a party, as Republicans, or as a good candidate? What can we do to answer the needs of people that are not being currently met? We have to listen to them. What's the problem? What are your biggest problems? And I guarantee you right now, it's always going to come back to money and it's going to come back to safety, because those are the biggest problems for people right now. We just have to figure out someone who is usefully able to present real solutions to people and listen to them at the same time.
Yes, I agree.
All right. So I guess one of the things that we can tell, there's a little shift upon us. I asked if you watched the Super Bowl this weekend. Did you watch it?
No.
No, she didn't. No, not even a minute, huh? Not even a little glimpse.
I grew up playing sports. I don't watch sports.
All right. So I watched the Super Bowl from start to finish because I thought, this, first of all, we talk about it on my radio show. 126 million people watched it. It's one of the very few things that when you mention something or reference something, people will get it because most people saw it. It was a pretty underwhelming Super Bowl, from the halftime show to the game itself to the commercials. There wasn't a whole lot of like, oh my gosh, amazing moments. But I think what was really interesting is showing you this shift in public opinion. President Trump is cheered while Taylor Swift is booed. Take a look. All right. Now, I have to say, I don't need the crowd to boo Taylor Swift. She's just there watching her boyfriend play. I know people get tired of the football games taking shape around her, the context of her being there, but I don't necessarily think it's great for people to boo her. But what I am wanting you to see in watching all of that is that the crowd cheered President Trump. This crowd in New Orleans saw him. They put him up on the Jumbotron during the national anthem. He's saluting the entire time. And the crowd roared for him. This is a change. This is a change away from politics as normal, as usual. His polling shows that people are happy with what he's doing and acknowledge that he's delivering on campaign promises. This is the lesson to people. Make a promise and deliver on the promise. Don't make a promise and then try to scramble to deliver it 8 years later. Don't make a promise with no intention of keeping it. Let's make this the new normal, where you make a promise and you keep a promise to the people. And I think people are appreciating it. You know, Chris Jones, who was on the Kansas City Chiefs, actually ran over to shake the hand of President Trump before as he was escorted onto the field after meeting with those terror attack victims from New Orleans. This is the shift that we've been looking for, where the mainstream news media has a big L in their loss column.
Hey, but explain to me something. How is it possible that a U.S. president has never attended the Super Bowl in person? I was so shocked to hear that.
I couldn't believe it. And you know what? Maybe, I don't know why. I mean, you would think, especially someone like Obama might have wanted to go see the game. He's young and vibrant, ready to go. George W. Bush was a huge sports fan. I don't know. But it took President Trump to be the first president, and he was only there for half the game. I bet, given his wishes, he probably would have been able to finish the whole thing. But I loved seeing it. I also loved the Brett Baer interview with President Trump, where he was talking to him about football. He is a sports fan, and God love him. As much as he has been working, he still knew his stuff when it came to the Eagles. He did predict Kansas City was going to win, but I have to say, so did almost everybody in the country. They thought they would three-peat, but the Eagles were there to play. And you heard, I actually have a problem solver for President Trump. And actually, maybe we can get this over to Tom Homan at the border. Do you know that the defensive line, the average weight and height of the defensive line for the Philadelphia Eagles was 6'6" or 6'7" and 350 pounds. That was average. So I'm saying they've won the Super Bowl. They've got an off season ahead of them. Maybe we could just send them to the border and then we don't have to build the wall.
Border. I love it. Oh my gosh. I know.
Can you imagine?
I'm kind of laughing at this idea that they want to take the 89,000 IRS agents that Biden hired and redeploy them as Customs and Border Protection. I just don't see that. What with the little, pencils, their mechanical
pocket
pencils
protector
in their pockets. Yeah. I just don't see how that's going to work.
I don't either. But the idea is, I think President Trump is trying to get them to leave their job, because I don't think they want to be out there doing that either. They were signing up for a nice, cushy office job. All right. And I will say finally today, we are big Trump fans around here. And during the last administration, I think one of the greatest things that President Trump did that he doesn't get any credit for is Right to Try, where he allowed people to do things that were not FDA approved yet if they had chronic illness, if they were suffering with something that could potentially take their life. And I love that piece of legislation. I think it's important. It makes people's lives better. It gives people hope. But I'm going to say selfishly, okay, it's not better than that, but it's really good. And that is that President Trump is saying, enough with those paper straws. Take a look.
To address it, and it really is something that affects ordinary Americans in their everyday lives.
We're going back to plastic straws. These things don't work. I've had them many times, and on occasion they break, they explode.
They explode.
If something's hot, they don't last very long, like a matter of minutes, sometimes a matter of seconds. It's a ridiculous situation. So we're going back to plastic straws. I think it's okay.
Yep.
And I don't think that plastic's going to affect a shark very much as they're munching their way through the ocean. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
I love him so much. And I
funny.
got to show you this right here. It tastes like freedom. I love a plastic straw. I'm sorry. But you can be responsible. You can put your plastic straws in a trash can. You don't have to dump them into the ocean for the sea turtles. So well done, President Trump. Those paper straws, never any good. We got our plastic straws back.
Amen.
Except in liberal California, they'll never bring them back. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you for sharing Happy Women with your friends. Please continue those 5-star reviews. We appreciate that so much. And telling people about the podcast, sharing it on your social media. Every little bit helps as we are trying to grow the podcast. So make sure you check us out on all our platforms. You can connect at SalemPodcastNetwork.com. You should also get Katie's book. It's called Next Gen Marxism. You can check her out online, katiegorka.org, and you can find her on Facebook. Just search for Catherine Gorka, or on X at Gorka Katie. And you can find me on social media too, Instagram and Facebook, Jennifer Horn Radio, and on Truth and on X at Jennifer Horn. Thanks so much for joining us. It's another episode of the Happy Women Podcast.